to face death and its consequences. While Stuhlinger isn't technically dead, he's still in the cryo chamber. He might as well be, from his own perspective, like he says, locked inside a dark tube with no one to talk to. The conversation between them paints a very sad but very human tale, and it's one where Jason Blundell and Craig Houston did a great job in a very small amount of dialogue in kind of wrapping up the emotions and the story of Blood of the Dead. You haven't really experienced the Blood of the Dead Easter egg until you've run through it with this dialogue on. Now that we know for sure how to activate it, hopefully everyone can experience it for themselves and derive whatever conclusions you want from it. And that's still not to say that there isn't more dialogue within Blood of the Dead between Stuhlinger and Richthofen still to find. The main quotes and dialogue between them come during the main steps of the Easter egg within Blood. As far as I'm aware, other side Easter eggs, for example like the shield upgrade, or getting the free Blundergat, the golden spork, the free monkey bomb Easter egg, all of these things I think haven't been tried with the Stuhlinger quotes and dialogue active. And that there may be a way that we just haven't figured out yet to actually get more dialogue to trigger so we can get a better, fuller picture of the relationship between Stuhlinger and Richthofen. Furthermore, as far as we can tell, none of the other 4 Primus characters can activate a corresponding Easter egg like Richthofen can. It seems like it would have been very, very cool if each of the Primus characters would have been linked up with the consciousness of one of the Victus crew, where instead of just the relationship between Stuhlinger and Richthofen, we would get to hear the thoughts of the other Victus characters of being locked in cryo. But hey, here's hoping that Blood of the Dead isn't the end for our Victus crew, that we will see them later. Like Richthofen says when talking to Stuhlinger for the second last time, if he is successful, the Victus crew will be safe. This seems to confirm what everyone was thinking, that the Victus crew isn't dead at the end of the Blood of the Dead cutscene, and that we will probably be seeing them again in the future. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
$1,967. That's right. 1,960 goddamn 7 is the number of days it took us to solve the Mob of the Dead ADFGX cipher. It's been done. It's been finished. I can finally sleep after 2,000 days, nearly. The Mob of the Dead ADFGX cipher has been solved, and in this video I'm going to be explaining how it was solved, who solved it, the story behind it, why you should care, what the plaintext is, whether the plaintext is important. I'm just going to be going through it all because this really is a bit of an epic kind of saga in the Black Ops Zombies community. Mob of the Dead came out on Xbox 360 on the 16th of April in 2013, during Black Ops 2. So at the time, the context was that we had Transit obviously on launch, and that had just followed Moon from Black Ops 1. Moon was this crazy climax. You get to Transit, everyone's left sort of scratching their heads like, what's this? Then we get Die Rise DLC 1 and everyone's like, what's this? And then Mob of the Dead came along. And in the loading screen for Mob of the Dead, we see a cipher that was different to basically any of the other ciphers that we had seen in Zombies up to that point. We'd seen Morse code, That's fine, but this was something new, the ADFGX cipher. ADFGX is an encryption method that was used during World War I that was really tough to crack at the time, and Jason has since said that, oh yeah, the ADFGX is just proof that not all old ciphers are easy to crack. Like, new ciphers are obviously very difficult to crack, but old ones can be difficult too, just like they were during World War I. So it was a bit of a challenge for the community. There were, of course, a bunch of people speculating at the time about various different possible solutions, how to even attack the thing in the first place because it was so hard to solve. Just discussion about the topic, and one of my favourite contributions to that conversation from the time came from a friend of mine called Talixian. He made a video basically saying, the Mob of the Dead ADFGX cipher goes something like this, and he sort of broke down what the deal was. And that video got a load of traction because people kind of got a window into how the cipher worked from his video, and then from there started to piece together their own possible solutions and things like that. Since then, basically everyone and their mum has tried to solve the ADFGX cipher, and there have been rumoured solves, but all of the solutions that have always been discussed have always been presented in a way that mean that they just don't work with the cipher we've been given. The reason for this, and it's a very quick test that you can do, is that you have your original piece of text, which is 68 characters long, and you expect that to crunch down into a shorter message of a certain length. But a lot of the solutions that were being suggested and proposed didn't crunch down in the right way. So everything was written off. People were like, nope, all the solutions that have been proposed are wrong. I've seen people talking about buses in there. I've seen people joking about Weasel in there. The most common one was The Giant is in France. That was publicized, I think, mainly by Habibi Gaming, or at least that's the video that I believe got the most views on it. That was like 2 million views of him talking about this mob cipher. And I made a video at one point saying, no, it's not The Giant is in France, because of the fact that that plain text didn't fit the criteria for that shrinking down, that crunching that I mentioned, and so it can't have been the solution. There was a whole load of stuff going on there, and it was crazy, man. No one knew what the cipher said. No one knew. No one could post a full decomposition of it, a decryption. No one could get it. But everyone was trying. And more recently, we've had members of the community like WaterKH, Oxenate, who I've talked about in previous videos, those guys, and a bunch of their kind of cipher-solving community that has grown from places like CODs, from places like the Reddit. They've come together and said, okay, let's solve this computationally. And different groups have explored the idea of possibly trying to brute force it by pooling computing resources from people across the Reddit. Other people have attempted to look at possible cribs, which are essentially key sections of the cipher that might give you information about the whole thing. So many attempts have been made using various different methodologies, but it's only today, as of September 4th, 2018, that it's been solved. The person that solved it goes by the name of Rich Killer. And I just want to sort of take a second here in this video to just sit down and give Rich Killer a round of applause, standing ovation. Oh, I nearly dropped my camera. Okay, we're doing a sitting ovation. We're doing a sitting ovation. There we go. There it is. Rich Killer has managed to solve this cipher, and not only has he solved it completely, he's solved it and managed to dodge the thing that was essentially throwing off all the other attempts at solutions. So as of today, Oxen in Discord with Water and Rich was talking and saying, since Blood of the Dead is about a month away, if there's anything we should feel rushed to work on, it's the ADFGX. Rich then responds and says, I'm voting for working on any specific cipher, so we have something nice before Black Ops 4 comes out. If you guys feel like the ADFGX is the one to go for, then it's on. Oxen responds, I'm not going to try and convince anyone to work on the ADFGX just because it's so hard. And even though Water and I both work on it, we rarely come to full agreement on approach and strategy. If you're going to work on it, go for it. It's just hard to really go at it as a proper team. And he sent that message at 2:47 PM, okay? 20 minutes later, oh, it pains me to say that. It actually physically pains me to say that. 20 minutes later, Rich solved it. Alright, let me put this into context. It's now 2018. 5 years later, and Rich solved it in 20 minutes. Bruh. What? The irony of all of this, though, and the thing that makes it really bittersweet, is that the only reason that Rich would have been able to solve it was because he would have been trying to solve it in the context of the old message, which was proven wrong. The giant is in France. Cutting a really, really long story short, the key thing that Rich decided to do that everyone else hadn't really been thinking about doing at the time was that Rich wasn't working in English. Rich was going for a solution in German. That was the key. It's not in English, and that means that all the dictionary attacks and all of the attempts at guessing words and all of the attempts to use cribs and things like that, and to use frequencies and all the standard ciphering techniques that you might employ are pretty much useless if you're working in the wrong basis. If you're working with the wrong language in the first place, a lot of that goes out the window. I mean, German has different letter frequencies to English, and that's one of the most fundamental tests that you do when you're attacking a cipher. You look at the frequencies of the letters, the frequencies of the pairs of letters, etc. You can't do that if your language is wrong. So from the very beginning, we were making an assumption that was flawed, and it meant that all the following work was pretty much useless, which really hurts to say, to be honest. It's been 5 years, man. I mean, I'm not the one that's worked the hardest on this. Like, I reckon that Oxen and Water have probably lost the most sleep out of everyone in the community for it, probably closely followed by Telixian, but it's been something that has captured all of us, and we've got nothing, or we've had nothing until now at least, and now we've got the goddamn solve, so let's talk about it, okay? It turns out that the solution is as follows. Using the configuration that I have on the screen right now, you can see that using this keyword and using this Polybius square, this key square, we get a result that Google Translate can very easily read for us if we take out a little typo that is, the giant is in France. So, when Jason said that this solve was not important for the community back during that Codex P panel, I think that's when it was at least, or maybe it was in one of the interviews that I did with him during Black Ops 3, at some point, I or someone in the community asked him, is the ADFGX a really, really important cipher? And he responded and said, well, I mean, it's a challenge, but it's not mega important. His answer there clearly had two meanings. It's not an important message because the actual message itself, the giant is in France, is pretty boring. It doesn't really say anything. But that's something that we were prepared for. We were prepared for this message to say, my name is Weasel and I like onions, or something completely useless like that. That was fine. We were all geared up for that. What I was not ready for was for this to solve to the thing that everyone had originally said was not true. I mean, we've had the solution for 5 years. So much work has gone into this, and we had the solution for 5 years. Man, it's a perfect irony. It's just perfect. Now, because the ADFGX holds a special place in the heart of myself and many people in the community, I have spoken to Jason about it a lot, and as such, we kind of came to the sort of mutual understanding that if it did get solved, he'd kind of acknowledge it, he'd sort of give a little tip of the hat, and I can now confirm that Jason has confirmed that this is the solution. This is it. So, I'm sure that either in Blood of the Dead or in the build-up to Blood of the Dead, Jason will acknowledge that it has been solved. He tends to stay pretty abreast of these sorts of things. Rich Killer, once again, thank you so much for putting this dog down before Black Ops 4 came out. Because it would have been a shame if this was an ongoing thing during Black Ops 4, in my opinion. It's nice that it's finished. And I'm just looking forward to being able to finally sleep now. Because it's done. Now the last thing that I want to say is that when this all came out, I was sitting...
What's going on YouTube? My name is John. Let's talk about that Blood of the Dead ending. More specifically, what's next? Where do we go from here? Because that ending was absolutely outrageous. I mean, spoilers. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you probably already know what happened in Blood of the Dead, but if you haven't, spoiler alert, Richtofen freaking dies, and it's not like Richtofen's death in Black Ops 3 where he just gets shot by his other self. No, this was emotional. It was drawn out. You had to watch him suffer and come to terms with the fact that he's actually going to die and he can't escape from this. It was one of the most intense scenes we've ever had in zombies, and it's almost mind-boggling to think that we went from knocked all the way to this. It's satisfying in a way that's almost weird. Anyway, Richtofen's dead now. What's next? So, at the end of the cutscene, everybody goes off in their own direction. It's almost like a moment where the band has broken up. Everybody goes off in their own portals. Now, the biggest question right now is, are they traveling together? Like, are they taking separate portals but ending up in the same place? Or are they all going to their own place? Perhaps they're just going back home. In addition to that, we have the Great War Richtofen, the post-Revelations Richtofen, if people have described him. Where is he going? Is he going to continue with our crew on the rest of their journey, or is he also going to go back to his own time? In this video, I want to share my theory because I think I have a pretty good idea of what will be happening next, and it's a way to tie in both Blood of the Dead and Classified. Check it out. To begin my theory, let's provide a little bit of context to Classified. So within Classified, there are two radios, or two punch card radios from Cornelius Purnell that I want you to listen to in regards to Ultimus from Moon coming back.
This is Cornelius Purnell, report 639, August 3rd, 1963. Earlier today, while Dr. Schuster was performing test number 11, we had an unexpected arrival through the teleporter. We've been unable to verify what year they came from. Our struggle with temporal anomalies during teleportation is well documented, but we are certain of where they came from: the moon. This event alone is baffling enough and is without explanation. But it becomes downright absurd when you take into account that I know two of the four individuals. Corporal Tank Dempsey of the United States Marine Corps, who I knew personally and was declared KIA after a failed rescue op to recover Peter McCain. And Dr. Edward Richtofen from Group 935, who went missing weeks after we formalized the agreement to